I recently sat down to watch the 1985 film American Ninja, directed by Sam Furstenberg and starring Michael Dudikoff, Steve James, and Judy Aronson. As someone who had no background or knowledge of this film, I didn't have any expectations going in. Unfortunately, it failed to hold my interest throughout its runtime. The film follows Joe Armstrong, Michael Dudikoff, a U.S. Army soldier who, due to his troubled past, is skilled in the ancient art of ninjutsu. The story unfolds as Joe uncovers a sinister plot involving illegal arms dealings, corruption, and a group of ruthless ninjas. Along the way, he teams up with fellow soldier Curtis Jackson, Steve James, and love interest Patricia Hickok, Judy Aronson, to thwart the villainous plans. From the beginning, the film seemed dated with its over-the-top action scenes and cheesy dialogue. While it may have been a hit in the 1980s, I found it hard to take the story seriously. It is also worth noting that the acting in the film was less than impressive, with most of the cast delivering their lines with little emotion or conviction. The fight choreography and special effects in American Ninja were also lacking. I understand that this was a product of its time, but it made the film difficult to engage with on a deeper level. Although there were a few decent action sequences, they were overshadowed by the many poorly executed ones. The film's pacing was another issue, as it seemed to drag on in certain parts, making it challenging to remain invested in the story. While there were some twists and turns in the plot, they were quite predictable and failed to create any real suspense. In conclusion, I found American Ninja to be an unremarkable film that did not hold my interest. While it may have been a popular action movie in the 1980s, it does not hold up well today. The weak acting, outdated special effects, and slow pacing made it hard for me to fully engage with the story. If you're a fan of cheesy 80s action flicks, this movie may be worth a watch for the sake of nostalgia, but otherwise I would recommend skipping it. As a regular moviegoer with no prior knowledge of the American Ninja franchise, I recently watched American Ninja 2: The Confrontation, a 1987 martial arts action film directed by Sam Furstenberg. Despite its potential as an entertaining flick filled with action and stunts, the movie ultimately failed to hold my attention and left me struggling to stay awake. The story follows Joe Armstrong, Michael Dudikoff, and Curtis Jackson, Steve James, two American soldiers who are sent to an island in the Caribbean to investigate the kidnapping of a group of fellow Marines. Along the way, they uncover a criminal organization led by the mysterious Lion and its army of genetically engineered ninjas. One of the film's main issues is its weak plot, which lacks depth and substance. The storyline is simplistic and predictable, with little to no character development. This results in viewers not being invested in the character's journey and thus not caring about their outcomes. While the movie does include numerous fight scenes and stunts, they are executed poorly, appearing unconvincing and at times even comical. The choreography of these scenes could have been much improved, which would have significantly enhanced the overall entertainment value of the film. The acting in American Ninja 2: The Confrontation leaves much to be desired. Both Dudikoff and James deliver wooden performances, while Larry Poindexter, who plays Joe's fellow soldier and ally, fails to leave any lasting impression. This only serves to further disengage the viewer from the story. From a technical standpoint, the movie suffers from subpar production values. The cinematography is unremarkable and the editing appears choppy. The soundtrack, too, is largely forgettable, and the synthesized music at times feels out of place and detracts from the film's action sequences. In conclusion, American Ninja 2: The Confrontation is a lackluster action film that fails to deliver the thrilling and engaging experience one might expect from a martial arts movie. With a weak plot, poor acting, and unimpressive fight scenes, it struggles to hold the viewer's attention and is ultimately a disappointing watch. Having just finished watching American Ninja 3: Blood Hunt, the third installment in the American Ninja franchise, I can say that it was a slightly better experience than the previous two films. While it did manage to hold my attention at times, the movie is still not quite recommendable. Although the film demonstrates some improvements, I found it to be a challenge to watch and would give it a 4.5 out of 10. The plot centers around a martial artist named Sean Davidson, David Bradley, who teams up with returning character Curtis Jackson, Steve James, to take down a deadly terrorist organization led by the diabolical Mulgrew, Marjoe Gortner. This time the stakes are higher as the villains seek to create a deadly virus that could potentially threaten the world. One of the slight improvements in American Ninja 3 Blood Hunt is its more cohesive storyline compared to its predecessors. While the plot is still far from groundbreaking, it provides a clearer narrative structure that makes it somewhat easier to follow. Another area in which the movie shows some progress is the fight scenes. Although still not exceptional, the choreography seems a bit more polished and engaging than in the previous films. These action sequences, combined with a few exciting set pieces, provide moments of entertainment. Unfortunately, the movie continues to suffer from lackluster performances, with David Bradley's portrayal of Sean Davidson falling flat. Steve James reprises his role as Curtis Jackson, but his character remains largely one-dimensional. Marjoe Gortner's turn as the villain Mulgrew feels cliched and fails to create a sense of menace. Additionally, American Ninja 3 Blood Hunt still struggles with weak dialogue and an uninspired script. Many scenes feel contrived, and the movie does little to develop its characters or explore their motivations. Technically, the film retains a low-budget feel with its mediocre cinematography and forgettable soundtrack. While the editing appears somewhat more polished than the earlier installments, it still does not elevate the overall quality of the movie. In conclusion, American Ninja 3 Blood Hunt is a marginally better film than its predecessors, with a more coherent plot and improved fight scenes. However, these slight improvements are not enough to make the movie truly enjoyable or recommendable. With weak acting, a generic script, and unremarkable technical aspects, it remains a challenging watch that ultimately scores a 4.5 out of 10.